97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4 with 97.3 ESPN.com's Andrew DiCecco. Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast.
You know, we recognize the ability of the roster that's put together right now. And I think we have the ability to do something really special with this group, but it's going to take a lot of hard work.
Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
It is Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, and brought to you by PlaySugarHouse.com. Sign up now. They'll match your first deposit up to $250. Andrew DiCecco's in the house today. Yeah, boy, Jim Schwartz was in the house today as well, and he had a lot of, interesting things to say. Did he clear up anything from the Eagles' loss and that defense? Nate Gerry, that final touchdown from Chase Claypool. We'll bring Andrew DiCecco in and see what he had to say about the comments today from Jim Schwartz, who was grilled on a lot. I don't know that he gave us much, but we'll get Andrew's take on it all right now on Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash. And Andrew, welcome back on a Tuesday. We got Tuesday Night Football tonight, by the way. Listen to the game on 97.3 ESPN. All right, so today, Jim Schwartz, he was asked right out of the gates, should you have called a timeout? Should Rodney McLeod shade it closer to that side? Should Nate Gerry have backed up more? What should have happened on that play? And he really danced around it and really it didn't seem that he played blame on anybody, Andrew.
No, he didn't give a definitive answer as far as whose assignment that was. Was that the right play call? Should there have been a timeout called? He didn't answer much. He answered it without answering it. But, he didn't really throw anybody under the bus or anything like that. Those are the kind of answers that I expect from Jim Schwartz at this, having been here for 5 years. You're not really going to get a whole lot. You'll get some cool anecdotes from when he talks, but you won't really get a whole lot of substance when he has his Tuesday pressers.
All right, so he mentioned there's backing up is not in our lexicon when it comes to that situation. So he's saying we're trying to hold them out of field goal range. It's 3rd down and 8. The ball's on the 35-yard line. So that's still even if you get a stop there, it's a makeable field goal. Outside of getting a sack in that situation, that to me, backing up isn't in our lexicon, doesn't add up.
Yeah, and I know that he mentioned that he was trying to protect his corners. Obviously, Craig James is in the game for Darius Slay. The safety position, you had Rodney McLeod there manning the center field, but you also had Marcus Epps, who had been struggling, and he probably didn't want to give that kind of responsibility to a guy like Kayvon Wallace. There wasn't a whole lot of options, and Nate Gerry ended up drawing the shortest straw, I guess, and that's kind of the way that it went. But that kind of speaks to the lack of talent that the Eagles have on the defensive side of the ball.
What about the timeout? I just feel in that situation, when you know you're doomed, you have Jalen Mills trying to communicate with Nate Gerry, Rodney McLeod doing his thing. Obviously, it wasn't right. You just look at that play and something wasn't right. A timeout, I feel, was probably the most realistic option in that moment.
Yeah, even watching the TV broadcast, Hunter, you could say, why isn't there a timeout being called right now? It seemed to be so obvious, but yet it wasn't called. And Jim Schwartz today said that falls on Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson's the guy that usually calls the timeouts in those type of situations. That's the closest I've seen for him to potentially throwing anybody under the bus or putting anybody under a spotlight. But obviously there wasn't a timeout called there, and the results are kind of what you would expect when you see Nathan Gerry on a wide receiver that has hurt the Eagles throughout the entire game. So. Unfortunately, there could be more of that to come here in the coming weeks because the Eagles really don't have a ton of options.
All right, I want to, he mentioned that what we called was good against what they called, but Ben recognized it. Isn't that the problem, that everybody recognizes the same thing? Where is 47 on the field? And when they find 47, they dictate what they want to run. Isn't 47 constantly the problem here?
Yeah, it's a common theme, certainly. But as we've kind of talked about over the past couple of weeks, it becomes very predictable, the Eagles defense, because Jim Schwartz isn't very creative in his scheme. Teams know exactly what he's going to do. It's very predicated on the front four getting pressure. And when they don't do that, that leaves a lot of players up to get exploited on the back end and even on the second level. And the Eagles don't have the second level to kind of be able to mask some of those things. So, I mean, yes, obviously teams are looking at the tape and they see 47 constantly getting on the other end of these big plays, and they're going to continue to go at him. But as I tweeted out today, Nathan Gerry's played 355 out of 359 snaps this season. He's perceived to be their best option at linebacker, which kind of speaks to the problem right there, because obviously he's the worst rated linebacker in football. He's given up 23. Teams are 23 for 23 going at him in coverage.
Jeez.
He surrendered 4 touchdowns and 154.6 quarterback rating. So to trot that guy out there for 355 out of 359 snaps, that tells you right there that the state of the Eagles linebacking situation.
Well, okay. So I'm not joking when I ask this question, but it may seem like like I am. Does Schwartz play Gerry because, hey, this is who you gave me, so I'm going to keep playing him until you figure out that this guy stinks because this is all you gave me?
And that's kind of the way that I viewed it. These are the guys that he has. Those are the 6 linebackers that the personnel, that's what they've given him, and he's going to keep putting them out there. Obviously, Nathan Gerry has been around.
Okay, well, let me ask you this then, and I know you're a guy who knows a lot about some of these. I saw you tweet that you're more into Coastal Carolina tomorrow night than you are into tonight's game, so you know
right.
A lot of deep prospects, late round guys. Does he have better? Like, would they be better off letting Sean Bradley play? Would they be better off letting Alex Singleton play? Is Gerry the best option that they have, and it's just that they're bad, they don't have another option, or does he have better options?
Well, at this point, they really have nothing to lose. And Sean Bradley, one of his strengths coming out of college is that he's a very sharp-minded football player. He's always finds himself to be in the right place at the right time. He's not very athletic. He doesn't move very well laterally or cover particularly well, but he's a very fundamentally sound player. He shoots the gaps. He diagnoses plays pretty quickly, and you got to see that. He only played 4 snaps on Sunday, but he made some great plays against the run. Put that guy out there and see what he could do, or at the very least take away a lot of Nathan Gerry's snaps. You know, he shouldn't be out on the field for 99% of the snaps, Nathan Gerry. Let's get Sean Bradley into the mix. Davion Taylor, I've gotten a lot of questions on him. It's hard to say if the Eagles aren't high on him. He's just simply not ready to be out there. He's a guy that has a lot of athletic ability. He runs fast, sideline to sideline, can cover very well. But he doesn't know. He hasn't played football that long. He doesn't really know. He runs fast, sideline to sideline, but he doesn't always know where he's going, and that's a big problem. So, I mean, he's going to take a little bit of time. But as far as Sean Bradley, he was always the more pro-ready of the 2 rookie linebackers. He doesn't give you this kind of ceiling that a guy like a Davion Taylor has, but he's going to be more diligent with his assignments. And so I think that to have him only play 4 snaps on Sunday, that he's being criminally underutilized given the situation.
I would have to agree. That's the road I kind of wanted to go down. It's like Nate Gerry is not working. At what point? And you spit out the numbers. Those numbers, how can they look at that and not make a change? And I wonder, is this now on Doug Peterson? Can Doug Peterson, because I don't know what their relationship is right now. It seems like they're both headed in their own directions. Doug's doing the offense. Jim's doing the defense. At what point does Doug Peterson step up as the head coach?
You also have to wonder, what do the guys in the locker room say is, hey, this guy's giving up, what was the number, 23 out of 23 completions.
Yeah.
Teams are game planning for him. He's blowing assignments. How come I can't get on the field if this guy's playing like this? That's got to be demoralizing too.
Yeah, and you kind of read between the lines, read the tea leaves, and Roddy McLeod's post-game answer. He seemed, particularly annoyed. And it's hard for me to say whether he was annoyed at the play call or annoyed with, Nate Gerry not knowing his assignment or not listening to him when he was trying to talk to him, when Nickel Roby-Coleman, I believe, was trying to talk to him as well. But eventually, you keep trotting a guy out there. That's going to resonate with the team. It's like, look, let's give some of these young guys an opportunity here. You don't know what they can do, but they certainly, deserve an opportunity over a guy who's, just perpetually getting targeted every week in and week out. And really just, it's just not, the light's not coming on for him. He's been around since 2017. Knowing where you're supposed to be and being able to execute your assignments are 2 entirely different things. And Nathan Gerry's proven that he can't execute what they're asking him to do. So it's time to turn the reins over to some of the younger players.
All right, well, let me we're just making a broad statement that, hey, teams are game planning for him. Do you see that teams are saying, hey, when they're in the film room on Wednesday, Thursday, getting ready, all right, guys, we need to find 47, and we're going, Schwartz is asked today about misdirection runs with wide receivers. The wide receivers have more rushing yards against the Eagles than running backs. That's the linebackers, right? I mean, that's your linebackers not understanding how to read that type of play.
Yeah, and that also speaks to the lack of discipline that the team has as a whole. You have a very aggressive defense, but they over-pursue consistently every week, and teams see an opportunity there. They don't stay in their lanes. They're constantly finding themselves out of position, and particularly the linebackers struggle from an eye discipline standpoint. And a lot of teams are cashing in on that. You saw Ray McLeod this past week, Robert Woods in week 2. It's just teams are seeing things on tape, and they're just keep executing it until the Eagles prove that they can stop them.
By the way, some Eagles roster moves just came out. Speaking of a rookie that you like, Casey Toohill was just released by the Eagles. Also, Graylin Arnold, a defensive back. They have activated Will Parks for the 21-day practice window. That's good news because I think missing Parks has kind of hurt this defense a little bit. I'm interested to see what they end up doing with him. But Toohill's a guy that I know you liked. He has not been able to get in the field. But none of these moves here are helping out the biggest problem they had, which is the linebacking spot. And as you mentioned, I don't know that they have that fix on this particular team. But what do you think about Parks and how he could potentially help this team out?
Well, Will Parks is lauded for his coverage ability and his versatility to align, whether it's the slot, the outside, single high safety position, come down and play, that hybrid role that Malcolm Jenkins did. Getting him into that 21-day window is huge for the Eagles, who can really use any. They've been shorthanded on defense for the entire season, so certainly adding one of the guys that have been one of the more enticing free agent signings that they had is definitely a plus. Now we got to see if it'll be as early as this week, because they could certainly use all the hands on deck against an offensive loaded Baltimore Ravens team. So we'll see here.
I don't think Jalen Mills had a good game whatsoever on Sunday, but is he now your corner? Like you talk about Will Parks coming back, Avonte Maddox with the injury. I don't know if he was even that great on the outside as it is. We talk about his size all the time. Is Jalen Mills the outside guy across from Slay?
Well, I think right now depending on whether or not you get Will Parks back for this week, you could see Jalen Mills as the permanent cornerback too, because like I said, Avonte Maddox, they kind of thrust him into that second cornerback role. He's not a number 2 corner. He's a slot corner. And I think next year that position will be his. But right now, he doesn't have the size or the length to match up with some of these boundary receivers. And you saw him struggle, particularly against the Rams and some of these other teams, the Bengals as well. He's kind of playing out of his element there. And I think that putting a guy like Jalen Mills, who has started a lot of games at corner, for better or for worse, he has the size, the physicality, and the football intellect to be able to execute what they're asking of him on defense. So I think that Avonte Maddox might end up seeing some more slot duties when he comes back. Granted, Will Parks can get it back on the field because you might see some Will Parks and Rodney McLeod action at safety.
Yeah, I was going to follow up by saying, okay, so Jalen Mills is your outside corner. I understand his story, 7th-round draft pick. You don't expect much out of that, and you could say that he overachieved, and he is what he is, but is that good enough? Like, is Jalen Mills good enough at that outside corner spot?
No.
No.
It's just not good enough. So, what do you do?
Part of the reason. That's a big reason why they moved him to safety. He does not have the long speed or the instincts to be able to play that position at a high level, which is what the Eagles really need. And that's why they put Maddox there. He's a quick twitch player. He does have the instincts, but he doesn't have the athletic traits that you look for in a second corner. Now, let's not forget that Avonte Maddox has played safety for the Eagles. He's played the safety position fairly well in his limited sample size. So there's also that option there, because you do have 2 nickel corners right now in Roby Coleman and Trayvon LeBlanc. But it's clear to me that Jalen Mills is the best second corner that the Eagles have right now. So you might see Avonte Maddox kind of be used similarly to Will Parks as far as a movable chess piece.
Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast right here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. I know, Schwartz, he got asked about the linebackers a lot, and he was asked about the resources devoted to the linebackers. He was asked about the young linebackers. He was asked about, the fact that you had Nigel Bradham. Now you lose that leader there. In today's game, the Eagles don't value the linebacker. They have the least amount of resources devoted to that position. Is the linebacker position, how important do you see that position in today's game?
I think it's an important position, but I don't think that it's.
In other words, are they right? Are they right in the way that they view it? That we shouldn't be putting a lot of money into that position. We just happen to have, maybe we have the wrong guys, but we're not going to apologize for not spending money there.
I think it becomes a talent evaluation issue because I think that as you're seeing around the NFL, teams are finding these late round to mid round linebackers on day 2 or day 3 that can step in and play. And the days of having that 2-down run-down linebackers that can, shoot the gap and play a downhill style football like the Jeremiah Trotters of old, well, those days are pretty much extinct. And now you're seeing a lot more hybrid players that can play, that are more adept to playing coverage and running sideline to sideline and matching up against some of these hybrid tight ends that you see all around the NFL. I think those guys are becoming more prevalent. Obviously, that's what they hope to get out of Davion Taylor. He's just not ready. But you look at Jeremy Chin and Isaiah Simmons. Those are the molds of the new age NFL linebackers that teams are really trying to get. They try to go that route with Nathan Gerry being a former safety. It just hasn't worked out. So to me, that becomes a talent evaluation standpoint, not necessarily a lack of resources.
All right, this week, tight ends have given them all sorts of problems. You got Andrews this week, but on top of that, big downhill runner with Mark Ingram, and on top of the fact that you got Lamar Jackson to deal with, how big of a mismatch do you see these linebackers against Andrews, Lamar Jackson, Mark Ingram, and then J.K. Dobbins?
Well, I think that as far as the linebackers being able to hold up against Mark Andrews or Mark Ingram before I get to the tight ends, I think that they'll be okay because the front four has done a fantastic job in run defense. For as many faults as the Eagles defense has, they do hold up. They hold up strong at the point of attack before it even gets to the second level a lot of times. But as far as the tight ends go, like we talked about, teams see what Nathan Gerry has been. He's on a lot of people's highlight reels this season, 5 games into the season. So a guy like Mark Andrews, who to me is a top 3 tight end in football right now, he surpassed Zach Ertz. He's going to have a field day against Nathan Gerry. They don't have the personnel to match up with him. It doesn't matter what Nathan Gerry has done over the past 5 weeks and have a team game plan for that. What other options do they have to put on him? Darius Slay? Okay, but then you're going to have a mismatch on the outside with Hollywood Brown or somebody else. So it's going to be pick your poison for the Ravens. So they're going to definitely target Mark Andrews in the short to intermediate routes and probably find success there, just like every other team has.
Yeah, I don't know how you get through. Every week it seems like there's a big tight end that you're stuck playing. You had Kittle, you have Andrews this week. Last week you didn't have. Ebron's a middle of the road guy. Claypool just killed you as a physical guy. It seems that linebacker position is going to be a problem for them moving forward here. We're talking to Andrew DiCecco, obviously, Football 4, where, all right, so let's get to this point then. Do you spy Lamar Jackson? How do you balance figuring out what to do with him? Because if you're spying, it's typically with a linebacker.
Yeah, I was going to say, my question for you is, who's spying Lamar Jackson? Nathan Gerry? Nathan Gerry's supposed to be their strongest guy in coverage. Maybe Duke Riley? The options there are not very enticing. I don't know that that's the route to go given the personnel that they have.
Why don't you give Davion Taylor a shot, right?
He's the most athletic linebacker they have. That's a fact. That's not opinion. It's just more so of him knowing the assignments and knowing where to go. He runs around like his hair is on fire, but you also have to know, you have to be diligent in your assignments and know exactly where you're going. Or that's just as ineffective as having a guy like Nathan Gerry who knows where he's supposed to be but can't get there.
Now, how far away? We had this conversation in the beginning of the show. I had a bigger problem drafting Taylor in the 3rd round than I do with taking Hurts because. Look, I get it. Hurts, I get, is a project. He's a luxury pick, but I value that position. So the quarterback spot, I'll take my shot. In the 3rd round, you took a guy who is not ready to get on the field. Like, how far away, in your opinion, is Davion Taylor from helping this team out? That's where I have a problem is, all right, you took your project in round 2, okay. you can't do the same thing again in round 3.
No, he's 2 years minimum away from being able to contribute to the Eagles, by my estimation. I had Davion Taylor grade as a 5th-round pick for what that's worth, but he does have the athletic traits of the modern-day NFL linebacker, but he's just so far away from playing. He's so raw. They're not even really giving him a lot of special teams responsibilities right now, which tells you all that you need to know. He's so new to the game of football that, you know, he's not going to be able to contribute for at least a couple of seasons, which is very concerning. In that 3rd round, when you look at a guy like Akeem Davis-Gaither from Appalachian State as a player who I really liked, who does fit the current mold of the linebacking landscape in the NFL, he went to the Cincinnati Bengals, and he's contributing to them. He actually made a play down the sideline against Miles Sanders in the game, in the Eagles-Bengals game. So, I mean, that was a head-scratching move. To be honest with you, I know that he had the measurables and everything that they're looking for, and he ran I believe it was a 4.4 40-yard dash. Really gaudy numbers there, and I think they may have gotten enamored with that, but he's very far away from contributing.
Tell you what, watched Kenneth Murray last night. Wouldn't mind him playing, and you're going to see Queen this weekend with the Ravens. Wouldn't mind seeing those two guys playing linebacker for you.
Yeah, I had Patrick Queen as my Defensive Rookie of the Year candidate when I did my predictions for Inside the Birds before the season. He's a fantastic player. And like you said, you saw Kenneth Murray last night all over the field, shooting the gaps, diagnosing plays, making plays behind the line of scrimmage. And you're going to see Patrick Queen doing much of the same. And you're going to see a lot of tweets on Sunday, I'm sure, throughout the timeline about why didn't the Eagles get this guy? He was there for the taking. And that's going to continue to happen throughout the season.
I just don't understand how you can watch that. And we all watched what happened last night, and we see these players. How do you watch that and then see what you have and think that that is okay? Or, you go down that road. I just can't comprehend seeing what works in this league and then not trying to copy it. It's a copycat league. We talk it all the time. You let Malcolm Jenkins go, okay, you get Darius Slay. You know what type of role Malcolm Jenkins can provide, and it just turned into a nightmare with what you have at linebacker, and I just don't know how you can see these players do it and not feel horrible.
This comes back to poor drafting. Think of it this way. If they had hit on J.J. Arcega-Whiteside last season, if he was what they envisioned him to be, you don't have to take a guy like Jalen Reagor in the 1st round. Maybe you allocate that to offensive line or linebacker. And you can go down the list of guys that they've kind of taken in past drafts that haven't worked out. And now they kind of have to correct that problem by overdrafting them or kind of pushing another position putting another position on the back burner when those positions now suddenly become a need.
Andrew DiCecco. Follow him at DiCecco NFL. Make sure you get all his coverage for the Eagles and the Ravens at 97.3 ESPN.com and InsideTheBirds.com. And, of course, he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. All right, Andrew, take care, pal.
You too, guys. Have a great week.
He'll be back on Monday to recap the Eagles and the Ravens.